Welcome to Life, Living in Full Expression with Randy and Grace. We have been talking about preparing for retirement and living in retirement, but today is about really leading yourself through retirement. So I'm getting to turn the tables today a little bit and interview my husband, who has gone from leading international companies to helping others lead themselves. So don't laugh. And we're going to talk about what you've learned, honey, about money, mindset, and, the meaning behind it coming along the way.
Well, hello, everybody. We can talk a lot on what I've learned because I learn when I make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I try to learn when I make mistakes. And I am retired, so as you are. So maybe we can help some people. I certainly hope so.
Well, I would think we can, because this particular show really is about wisdom. It's about what you've learned as a business leader that now helps you live a better, more peaceful, toned, relaxing retirement. So here we go.
Well, you just covered a lot of ground right there. You said peaceful. That's what it's all about. You don't want to retire and be worried all the time. So we've got some tips maybe to help you feel more at ease when you retire. Know things are going to be okay, and we'll get into how you do.
Right. I was going to say, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. The first thing is that retirement can be like a business if you run it that way. So what do you suggest for people if they have run companies or been in business? What are the similarities and or differences of doing that as you manage your retirement?
Well, there are many more similarities than differences. The major difference is when you're running a business, you're managing usually somebody else's money, and in retirement, you're managing your own money. So that's a big difference. But you do it the same way. My experience, I like to keep things simple. Always simple. That old adage, keep it simple, stupid. I like to keep things simple. And in actuality, doing a lot of things the right way is the simple way. We tend to overcomplicate things. But when I manage my own finances, I do it exactly as I did when I was running a business.
So would you say that managing your checkbook is like managing, I don't know, quarterly reports, or,
Well, yeah. It's like, the principles are, and before you retire, I know some of you that are thinking about retirement, you need to take a look at a budgeting process, a planning process. Take a look at how much you've saved. Are you continuing to save? In other words, what are your assets? How much do you have? If you can reduce some debt, pay off a car or a mortgage before you retire, reduce the monthly payments, might be a good thing to do. But it's all about planning and having a strategy. And I can't overemphasize the importance of doing a budget, because when you do a budget, it kind of lays out for you how much money you can be able to spend each month. Everybody needs a reserve fund. I can talk more about that later for 3 to 6 month living expenses. But if you have a budget, it enables you to look at it and say, okay, here I am in month 4 of the year, and we have this much coming in on a monthly basis, this much normal outflow, but we could afford to buy, some new furniture, or maybe a car, the way things are going, whether you pay cash or make a payment. But it enables you to take a look and be able to say, yes, we can afford that, and then not worry about it. If you don't have a budget, people tend to overspend. People tend to buy things that they can't afford. And you have this unease. Should we afford this? Heck, we like doing this. Life's short. Let's buy it. Well, it may not be the right thing to do, but if you have this plan laid out, it gives you a lot of, you said peace before, peace of mind that yes, we can afford that, and you forge ahead and keep doing that. And when you run a business, I can't tell you. I've been a business consultant for 20 years. I can't tell you how many businesses you would think plan, have a budget so they can see if they can afford to hire people, buy new equipment, whatever. Most of them don't do that. They kind of go with the gut. And sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. So
after all, life is kind of a business. in itself, right? I mean, you wouldn't walk into a business and not have a business plan. At least you shouldn't. So you need to have a plan for your life, especially your retirement life.
Yeah, exactly. But it does give you a peace of mind if you do this, so that you can kind of, see the future a little bit. Now, things are always going to happen that you don't expect. So in a business, like I said, most businesses don't even have a budget, but they love it when we develop a budget together. They can kind of see the way things are going to unfold. They can see what they can afford. Um, and it just allows them to make those decisions and see what's going on. It just gives you some comfort and peace of mind that things are okay. And as things change, also in running a bit, so you have a budget in a business. Same thing I would say for retirement. You review it frequently in a business. I would say people should need to look at their finances at least monthly, if not weekly, to just see changes. If they need to make mid-course corrections, and you make mid-course corrections as you go.
I think that's what people worry about, though. They worry that if they have a plan that they can't change, they can't vie away from it, and that's not true. A plan is in place so that you can make decisions and adjust.
Well, you're absolutely right. Some people say, why should I plan? It's going to change. Well, of course it's going to change. But when it changes, you look at it, make changes in the budget, and it gives you peace of mind on what those changes meant and how it's going to affect you going forward.
Okay.
So plans always change, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a plan.
Amen to that. Check one. The number two thing that I think about when I think about you, and here's our family and our little business. I have 2 dogs and me. He's got to manage us and lead us around.
I hardly manage you.
Well, let's not spoil the mystery. Anyway, but you have been a CEO, a CFO. You have to think like that, not as if you're just one of the peons in the company who's always spending. Right? There's a mindset difference between someone who is setting the goals and developing things rather than just being handed the money to spend.
First of all, did you actually say a peon in the company? What does that mean? There are no peons in the company. Everybody's important. I can't believe you said that.
Well, that's how a lot of CFOs treat people.
Well, that's not the right way to treat people. I mean, you don't have any. If you have a peon, get rid of them. Everybody in the company needs to be valuable and have a good, purposeful job, but they shouldn't be there. But there are no peons.
Okay, so we will not treat Whiskey and Smokey like peons in the company. Oh, I just dropped something.
Hardly.
But my point is that, especially when you're leading your own retirement, you're a leader in this. You're not just somebody who's there receiving money that, even if you're alone, you're giving it out to yourself and just spending willy-nilly. You have to have the mindset of leading this future.
Well, and let's go back to the plan. There's a lot that goes into the plan. And as we said, things change. For instance, flexibility is good. If you are able to work and get a job, maybe you go back and pick up part-time on what you were doing before you retired, or maybe you look for a new part-time job or whatever to earn some more money. The way I look at that is we have a budget and we plan we can spend a certain amount. If things went south, the stock market tanked, or if we, whatever, we had a really unusual expense like a sickness, God forbid, or something like that, then I have the option. I can get a job to go back to work, somewhere. I have go back to consulting, whatever. So hopefully everybody has skills. I don't care if it's, working at McDonald's or doing CPA or whatever. So it's nice to have something to fall back on if the economy tanks or whatever, and you can depend on that. And it kind of gives you a cushion that you can spend what you're spending now and not have to build up too much reserve for anything that might happen. So it's a dynamic kind of thing.
Right, but you do have to keep that reserve. There needs to be a reserve.
There needs to be a 3 to 6 month cash reserve. Absolutely, so you don't have to go into your stocks if you own stocks, or your savings account that's earning interest, whatever, unless you really have to. So you need a little reserve so you don't have to bother interrupt those those accounts that are earning you money unless it's absolutely necessary.
Well, for me, I know one of the things that I think about as I think about our future and the budget and the money we've set aside and all that. It's not just about how to spend it or what to do with it, but I have more of a mindset of stewarding it, like for me, I think of everything good ultimately comes from God. His brain came from God. So I'm very happy about that. He's very wise and very good.
You give me a lot
But
of credit.
I do. But when you think about things that way, that you just don't have this money there to just consume, willy-nilly, and you're stewarding it for future use, I don't know. To me, it brings more gratitude, more peace, understanding that this is a gift that I have to take care of as I go forward.
Well, so are you saying like you're not just going to go out and buy things you don't need? The stewardship is you try to get value for your money and spend wisely. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, take care of the
Sure.
gift. It's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift. So I've been given this gift and I don't want to just waste it. I would say it that way.
Well, you know me, a gift. I think people earn their money, and so they should be a good steward of the money they earn. I don't think money. It's a gift from the biblical sense that we're fortunate enough to have it, but we also have to earn it.
Well, we have to earn it, but even like I said, even your brilliance is a gift from God. So amen to that. Okay, what about in business? There's this whole thing called risk management. How does that apply to our retirement life?
Well, I kind of alluded to that earlier. You never know what might happen. So risk management is having a reserve fund of 3 to 6 months of cash or easily liquid assets that you can get to if you need to, and then be flexible if you can. You could always go back to work. You don't want to. If you had to do something, if you have a huge medical expense or something like that. So you always have to look at things that might happen and what if and what would I do if that happens.
So it's having that little plan in your back pocket
Yeah.
just in case.
Kind of like Plan B.
Right, in case something
And you
would
do the
happen.
same thing in business.
Right,
Exactly.
because you can't just, to your point that you're always saying, you can't just hope it's all going to work out, or you need to have, and
Well,
there are lots of risks.
What do you say? Hope is not a plan. What do you say?
I'm saying, well, because we always disagree on the, like he just said about the gifts and God and everything else. You have to have in the physical world a plan B for how you're going to handle something, and not just say, "Oh, God is going to take care of it." That's something. It's not. You have to know. You have to have something set in place for you to do. And there are lots of risks. I mean, risks come with our health.
Yeah.
Risks come with our finances in case something happens. And there are just lifestyle risks that happen. So there are all kinds of risks that we have to be prepared to address. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole point is we want people who plan more and worry less. They say
Exactly.
if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. If you fail to plan, you
Right.
plan to fail.
Right.
Right. So, okay. So even if it doesn't disappear, if you think your risk is going to disappear in retirement, that's not the case. It just changes shape, and we have to manage.
Life has risk.
Right. With the same confidence that you had at work. Okay.
Well, it's kind of nice to have my own, do my own planning for retirement, because if I really messed up at work, I could get fired. I can't get fired out of my way. I guess you could fire me.
I could fire you.
I can't get really fired out of my own life.
Well, you know what? I think people do feel like they get fired out of their own lives sometimes. If you haven't planned and all of a sudden something happens and you say, what happened?
Well,
we talk about that. That's my next book, by the way.
That's not getting fired. You just got to get to work and come up with Plan B.
Well,
You should have Plan B.
I was going to say it's a little late if you're already in that situation.
Right.
Okay. What about succession planning for your life, right? You talk about succession planning in business. You're planning for somebody to, follow you, right? You want to train people up. You don't just want to lead people or, well, actually, you don't manage people, you lead people. So you're always trying to lead people to replace you, right?
Well, you want to take care of the company long term. So if you leave or get hit by a bus, God forbid, or whatever, somebody capable has to step up, and hopefully you've done some training. It's a great analogy for a couple that's retired. I mean, if something, normally I do the bill paying. You have your own, money and budget. You do yours, but I do the majority of it. And you need to know how to do what I do in case if I got hit by a bus tomorrow. So, we go through it, and I kind of force you to do this
Yes, it's
drill.
very difficult. He had me do a lesson the other day, and I got to tell you, I'm sitting here looking at this computer screen, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So the first thing it did was make me appreciate, really, and not the first time I've done this, but it makes me appreciate everything he does. But there is a lot to learn, is the point.
Well, and it's not complicated. I mean, the way, you need to keep a kind of a balanced checkbook. You need to look at the savings and, what are the earnings? Oh, and by the way, I mentioned, I think in the last podcast, I need to mention again, I would encourage everyone to hire or get with a good financial advisor, wealth consultant. They'll charge you there's a lot of reputable firms. They'll charge you 1 to 1.5% of your value of your assets each year. But let me tell you, it's well worth it. They know about funds and really great CDs and money markets with the highest returns and stocks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Annuities, whatever you want to do, they will more than earn that fee that you pay, and they can get investment vehicles fine, and we can't even get into. You have to have a certain critical mass of money to get into it. They pool our resources and jump in there. They're well worth their money. So another analogous to running a business. If you're running a business, I don't know the technical parts. I'm not an expert in everything in a business, but you got to know who to talk to that know that. And then you can put that into your brain and run the company accordingly with the knowledge from these people. Same thing when you retire. Go to the experts. Sure. This is what they do for a living, and let them advise you on what to do. And that also gives you a little bit more of a sense of peace and comfort. And when I first retired, I tried to do a lot of this myself, and I was looking at this every day, and it was nerve-wracking and starting to drive me crazy. And I'm like, duh. Let the experts do it. And believe me, it's well worth it. So this is a plug for all the good wealth managers, financial consultants.
And it's an important thing to do, whether you are single or a couple. And if you are a couple, it's good to go together, because when these folks are good at what they do, they are asking you what you want, how you feel. Is there a difference between how he feels and how I feel if I'm the one who's then left? So it's a very important thing to do. But there are.
Well, it is. And the other, as you're alluding to, the other good thing about it is if something happens to me, because I was managing a lot of this, they know, already familiar with our accounts, familiar with our philosophy and what money we have, and they can just slide right in and do the same thing for her and help educate her. And she's not starting from scratch like, oh my God, what do I do now? So right. That's another reason to have people you can trust.
So it's important to keep financial and legal records, keep it all organized, which he does wonderfully, and being able to talk about it openly with whoever you're training to do this. And you need to be ready to know where that money is going after you. There's you want to be generous, you want to have a legacy, but you want to make sure that you know where that money is going and how it's going to be handled.
Well, and back to the succession planning, I forgot to mention this, is completely analogous to running a business. Is if something happened to me, Grace is my successor. So she needs to be trained. That's why I force her to get in and look at this stuff and talk to the wealth advisor and learn this. So she's ready to take over if something happens to me, which is exactly like succession planning in a business.
Right. Right. And, we have a pretty traditional thing going here, but I have a lot of friends, a lot of women friends, where they are the lead in all of this, so it's not just male to female. Right. A lot of times it's female to male, because they're in there, they're doing this all the time. That's what they do. And it's the husband that now has to
From my experience, I would say there's more women handling the household financials, paying the bills than
Right,
men.
right.
So, right, this goes both
It goes
ways.
both ways,
Right.
definitely.
Right.
But there are tips and things also about how to choose those financial advisors in terms of, because your life might be different than somebody else's. So, and
Sure.
we've gone through 2 different ones or 3 different ones already.
Two.
So, so things change. So there's some good questions that you need to be asking when you do look at making that kind of a decision. So, we want to make sure that we can control at least some of what goes on afterwards, right? And that's
Right.
okay. Okay, next. From the boardroom to the breakfast table. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What is one business principle that every retiree should use? Just one principle.
Plan ahead.
Plan ahead. Okay, like that. Check. What mistake do people make when they manage retirement finances?
They don't have a budget, or they don't know how much they're spending and what it means, excuse me, to their future uh, financial situation. And they're kind of in the dark.
Haven't looked at a big enough perspective.
Have a budget, make sure you're on track for spending what you think you can spend and still be comfortable.
Okay. And what's your favorite investment lesson that you can?
Don't do it yourself.
Okay. Okay. And in one sentence, definition of success at this stage of life.
Being comfortable with what you can spend and not worrying day to day about, do you have enough money?
Okay. Yay. Check. Okay. I think that if I were going to sum this all up, we want to encompass wisdom. We want to have planning. We want to have peace. We want to be grateful. So a leader may be retired, but good leadership never retires. So you just take everything that you've learned in your life and apply it to yourself and to the people that you really love.
Yes, and if I can help anybody, if you have questions about how do you go about building a budget, or the steps, or what should I do, or what should I think about, I'll be happy to discuss it with you, help you with it. Just contact me at randyswartz.com, randyswartz.com, and we can schedule a session.
What I want people to always remember also is that, especially in this conversation, that it's practical information. It's not rocket science. And you might be nodding your head and saying that now, but when something happens, our brains go a little crazy. So we want you to remember at that moment that it's practical, but it can also be peaceful. Just breathe through it. And I think that even in this small discussion, we know that financial planning and faith are not opposites. They support each other and they help you move ahead, and it's everything that you need. So faith gives purpose to your plan, and planning can give structure to your faith.
They're very much connected. If you don't have faith, you have a hard time being positive, believing things are going to be okay, having confidence in yourself to be able to do this. They're very much connected.
So definitely you can contact him anytime on the financial planning side, and you can always reach out to me on the faith side. Anyway, next time we will start a new series. We're going to be talking about living intentionally to be able to carry out these kinds of lessons from finance all the way to our friendships. So we look forward to seeing you next time.